All right, let's jump right into this explainer and uncover the incredible, completely hidden pipeline that brings blockbuster prehistoric documentaries to life. You know the ones I'm talking about, right? Those sweeping, totally cinematic shows where long-extinct beasts roam with absolute lifelike realism. But how exactly do we get from a pile of ancient dust and fragmented bones to a living, breathing creature you feel like you could almost reach out and touch? Well, today, we're going to demystify that exact process. So you're watching a massive T-Rex stomping across your screen, roaring and interacting with its environment. And you really have to ask yourself, how much of this is actual hard science? And how much is just TV producers making stuff up for entertainment? Honestly, it's a completely fair question. It's so easy to look at these breathtaking visuals and just assume they're nothing more than a Hollywood fantasy. And believe it or not, that skepticism isn't just limited to the general public. When the landmark series Walking with Dinosaurs first dropped, some cynical critics were so convinced these shows were unscientific, they actually went after the paleobiologists who consulted on them. Paleontologist Michael J. Benton noted that they were accused by a fellow scientist of having been seduced by the bright lights, of selling their expertise cheaply. He literally called them prostitutes in public. The backlash was shockingly harsh, but as you'll see in just a moment, the science behind these documentaries is anything but cheap. Okay, let's look at how this all builds, starting with step 1, the dirt. Discovering raw evidence frozen in time. You absolutely cannot build an accurate prehistoric explainer without first getting your hands dirty in the field. A perfect example of this foundational evidence is the mind-blowing Tanis site in North Dakota's Hell Creek Formation, discovered by paleontologist Robert DePalma. Scientists didn't just find your standard scattered bones here. No, they found incredibly preserved turtles, which actually had to be carefully removed and kept intact using liquid nitrogen, and fully fossilized fish. But get this, the most staggering detail? They found tiny beads of molten glass, called ejectospherules, locked right inside the gills of those fish. Now, those tiny glass spherules are massive because they allowed researchers to piece together at the exact day the dinosaurs died. This timeline maps out the sequence of the Earth's last mass extinction perfectly. 66 million years ago, an asteroid the literal size of Mount Everest slams into Mexico. Within minutes to hours, those molten spherules rain down on Tanis, which is 2,000 miles away. Almost simultaneously, massive seismic waves trigger a violent, muddy surge of water, instantly entombing the entire ecosystem while the fish were literally still trying to breathe, the glass raining into the water. The crucial point here is that we have the literal, physical evidence of the asteroid strike perfectly preserved to guide us. Sir David Attenborough put it best. When you hold one of these spherules in your hand, you are holding direct, undeniable evidence of the exact event that wiped out 75% of species on Earth. It's not guesswork. It's hard, tangible data. Which brings us right into step 2, the math. Translating ancient bones into rigorous biomechanical physics. Because, let's face it, bones and glass beads alone don't make a television show. To actually get a creature to walk or run on screen, scientists have to translate static fossils into dynamic organisms. And that requires some incredibly heavy math. Specifically, we have to figure out their center of mass. This is the central balance point that summarizes an animal's exact mass distribution in 3 dimensions, dictating exactly how it can move without just tipping over. If you get the center of mass wrong, the animation looks floaty, weightless, and just totally fake. This is where paleontologists like Donald Henderson come in. He meticulously measured fossil hind limbs to calculate precise 3-dimensional pendular movements. He mapped out the exact joints of an Allosaurus. And because dinosaurs had their legs tucked directly beneath their bodies, Henderson could basically reduce the leg movements to 3 pendulum units: the thigh swinging at the hip, the shin at the knee, and the metatarsal block, which is essentially the foot and ankle. This insane level of precision is the absolute bedrock of bringing these animals back to life. Think of a bipedal dinosaur, like the Allosaurus, as a giant seesaw balancing right over its hips. Moving 1 foot forward means the front end tips up and the tail tips down. The exact center of gravity proves the math that forces these wireframe models to balance perfectly as they step. It's a hugely complex, constantly shifting mathematical equation playing out in 3 dimensions. To find that exact balance point, researchers actually divided the dinosaur into digital salami slices. Seriously, they accounted for the specific weight of the solid bones and contrasted that with the empty spaces, like the lungs, in every single slice, from the snout all the way down to the tail.
By slicing and calculating like this, they completely solved the step cycles of these ancient beasts, proving exactly how fast they could run and how they bore all that massive weight.
And that incredibly hard work leads us to step 3, the studio, bringing all this data to life with animatronics, CGI, and sound. Armed with raw fossils and highly complex math, animators finally resurrect these creatures. But here is a super interesting contrast when it comes to the CGI hurdles. Rendering ancient mammals for shows like Walking with Beasts was actually way harder than animating the dinosaurs. Why? Because we as an audience are incredibly critical of mammals. We see dogs, cats, and humans every single day. We know exactly how fur moves in the wind, how eyebrows twitch, and how those little wobbly bits behave when an animal runs. If an ancient mammal's digital fur is even slightly off, our brains just instantly reject it.
And then there's the audio. Since stone obviously doesn't preserve sound, audio engineers had to get incredibly creative, layering noises from modern descendants. For instance, to give a voice to the Gastornis, this giant flightless bird, they actually combined monkey and rattlesnake sounds to create something entirely alien but totally biologically grounded. They pitched down goat noises to mimic a giant ground sloth, the Megatherium. They even took otter sounds and reversed them to bring a long-extinct shrew-like creature audibly to life. It's basically an auditory puzzle solved through modern biology.
Today, they are pushing the envelope even further. Executive producer Helen Thomas explains how they now seamlessly place hosts right into cutting-edge virtual sets. Using tech pioneered by shows like The Mandalorian, the camera has a tracking device, so as the host moves, the digital prehistoric background adjusts perfectly in real time, matching the precise perspective of the CGI creatures that get added in later. It completely blurs the line between the ancient past and the modern studio.
So, what does this all mean? Well, these breathtaking explainers are far more than just weekend entertainment. They're the ultimate scientific synthesis. They act as a literal time machine, combining thousands of hours of field geology, computer science, and artistic dedication, giving us a window into the Earth exactly as it once was.
Looking at this pipeline, you can clearly trace that incredible journey, moving from hard, irrefutable evidence in the dirt to the complex mathematical models ensuring the physics are flawless, all the way to the final cinematic magic in the studio. It is a massive triumph of collaborative science and technology.
Which brings us to our final and definitely most important question. We have mastered the technology and the science to perfectly recreate the Earth's last mass extinction. We know exactly what a global catastrophe looks like. So with NASA's DART mission testing asteroid deflection and our own climate rapidly changing, we really have to ask ourselves, now that we can perfectly see the consequences of the last mass extinction, will we be smart enough to use this knowledge to prevent the next one? Definitely something to think about the next time you dive into one of these incredible prehistoric explainers.